allihopa.
Hej,
Malin, hittar du?
jag tog med Mary denna gången eftersom hon har känt Laz och Gary längre än vad jag har.
Jag förstår. Och I love your t-shirt, Rune. Very nice. Print there.
You see all of it.
Yes. Let's see. No, I didn't see. It's a Rune. Can you please rise once more? It's a Rune thing you wouldn't understand. Oh, wow. Who gave you this t-shirt?
I bought it. You know,
Oh.
imagine a runner who buys his own t-shirt.
Did you print it yourself?
It sounds like a long ago retired runner. Because if there's something we runners have an abundance of is t-shirts.
I love it. And I see also Gary is here, or Laz. What should we call you? What do you prefer?
It does not matter to me.
Okay.
Both ways, I know you're talking to me because I see there's an Erik.
Yeah.
And Beppo.
Some kind of a connection problem, maybe? Nope.
I'm way out in the woods, so I'm not sure how strong the internet is usually okay, but you never know.
You never know. That's for sure. Okay, maybe we should start because I think a lot of listeners, they know you for sure. They are ultra enthusiasts, but maybe we have some listeners that are not really sure who you are. So for the uninitiated, how would you describe Laz or Gary? And the guy with the cigarettes doesn't count.
That's pretty easy. I'm an old hillbilly who lives in the woods. And I have seen Sweden's hillbillies because we were there at Älvdalen and went up to the Fairbairns in the mountains where the people take their animals in the summer. And I knew I was among my people there.
Hey. So, okay. No further description needed then. Okay. So we have Rune and his wife, Mary. I know that you are familiar with each other and also with Erik. You have met before, right, in Älvdalen?
I do believe I have.
Yeah.
And I've known Mary and Rune for a long, long time.
Amazing.
We even had you here in Falun visit our copper mine. You remember?
Poland has a really, really fast-growing, strong backyard ultra scene going on. I saw in my email as I was getting on to find the link and try to click on it that I had just gotten results from Radomsko. I haven't looked to see yet, but the Poles have been putting in some big miles. We have a team championships coming up, and Team Poland is one of the ones that I think could be a big surprise this year.
All right. And you are the founder of the Backyard Ultra concept, right?
I guess so. I had a backyard in my yard about 12 years ago. And then the next thing I knew, someone was wanting to have the same race, and then someone else. And now there's something north of 500 backyard ultras around the world.
That's really cool.
Of interest to Rune, I think, would be that there's a crossover with the backyard ultras in the 6 days. They have a race it's either just about to finish up or has just finished up in Hungary, the 6th day.
Okay.
And I saw several of the names of one of the, I guess, the woman who's probably going to finish was in second, is on the U.S. backyard team. And then the man that did real good. Oh God.
Did he break
the Polish runner who was second?
Koros record?
I think that there's a guy breaking Koros's record.
I wonder how Koros is going to react to that.
He's already reacted to that, and he didn't react particularly well.
No.
Maybe we should explain who that is, because it's the Greek guy, right, Rune?
Yannis Koros,
the Greek guy.
Yeah. He appeared in ultra running from seemingly nowhere in 1983 when he won the Spartathlon, so decisive that people thought he must have cheated in order to run that fast. He later on proved that there was not any cheating involved. And for many, many years, he was way ahead of the rest of us, as long as the distance exceeded 100 miles, which is 160 kilometers. Then the rest of us were left way behind. So he had multiple world records. But now, time has caught up with him, development has caught up with him, so I think he has got most of his world record broken.
But it would take 40 years to see if anyone can ever really match the dominance that he had. He was and the funny thing was, when he was accused of cheating, he probably responded the best that you could imagine, in that he just said, just wait till next time and I'll show you. Because the next time they watched him from beginning to end, and lo and behold, he really could run that much better than anyone else. I remember being sure he had to have cheated. There's no way anyone was that good, but he was.
Yeah, it was. I hope there will be that the next mega star in ultra running will not have that dominance over such a long period. And Yannis Koros, I don't think he has worked many days as an employee in his life. He seems to have just gotten by, a little here and a little there. So the rest of us were working at least 40-hour weeks and was training accordingly. So now professionalism has come into the sports, and I think there will be much more difficult for someone like Yannis Koros to dominate.
All right. Gary, you've built a reputation for creating races that seems like mental and physical torture. Why do you enjoy watching people suffer so much?
It's I guess I don't think of it as suffering. There's some discomfort involved. It's interesting to see how the human mind works in relation to sports. The attributes and the things that you either are born with or you can learn that make some people able to do incredible things with their physically that other people would just stop. It's like a big experiment. I'm fascinated with sports. I've been involved in sports, not just running, but other sports as well, my entire life, and I just seek a greater understanding. So you set up things that challenge people in different ways. I say that a lot of people don't understand the race director's job is only to provide a venue for people to find the greatness that's inside of them. I know Rune and Mary, they didn't need any guide to find the greatness that was in them. They came that way, but a lot of people benefit from having things set up that they can explore those aspects of inner space. What's going on up there?
Malin, my colleague here, she's one of Sweden's most famous middle distance runners. Are you familiar with the Barkley Marathons and other races that Laz has created?
No, I heard about them, but it's way out of my mind to to run those races. So for me, it's interesting to just listen because you know, I've been working hard. Middle distance is very hard for your mind too, but it's a very short time. So to run 800 meters, it's about you have to suffer for 30 seconds or something like that, and if you compare to run a ultra marathon like this, it sounds very
and you know that you're probably going to reach the finish line. And
yes.
In Gary's races, you're not sure. Probably you won't.
No.
That's the biggest difference.
You're happy if you come to the goal.
Yeah.
But it's a total different things. But it's so interesting because it's still something you're trying to reach something. For me, it was more like reach the goal as fast as you can with a body and mind that wants to stop in the end.
Yeah. Now when we have Malin online here, former junior world champion in cross country, was it 1989?
Yeah, it was.
And did you hold a Swedish record for 800 meters also?
Yeah, I had it for many years, but I had it for 17 years, I think.
Yes, and now this is the perfect time to remember, for me to remember, the most fantastic quotation by Gary Cantrell, Lazarus Lake. And I read it in the magazine Ultra Running many years ago when he wrote, in middle distance, they talk about, middle distance is about oxygen deficiency. Marathon is about glycogen deficiency. Ultra distance running is simply about deficiency. So there we have the differences between our sports. You remember that, Gary?
I remember that. I still believe that. See, I'm in awe to stand in front of a great middle distance runner because a long time ago I started out running the mile and the half mile, the 880 and the and
then you know what I'm talking about.
I still think there is nothing in all of sports more painful than the third lap of a mile run.
Yeah, it's nice to hear you say that, even if you're ultra marathon, because for me it seems so painful that I'm too scared to do that things.
The old Avery Brundage, if you remember him, he was the boss for the Olympic Committee for many years, in order to understand what Malin has gone through voluntarily. He said to run 800 meters is the closest a man can go to the pain of delivering a child.
But we are talking a lot about Barkley Marathons, and can someone please explain a little bit about this race for listeners that they are not familiar with this, because it's very special. Maybe Erik or Gary? someone? You can help each other.
I think Gary has the best explanation.
Yeah. It's a 100-mile race in the mountains in East Tennessee, and there's a 20-mile loop you do 5 times. It's in a wilderness area that when you leave to start the loop, you're entirely on your own. You have to carry everything you need. There's a couple of water drops if the temperature is above freezing, or there are ice drops if it's not. You have a map, and to find your way, there's not marked trails. They're actual backcountry trails, which means it's maybe you're on something that at one time was a road, maybe it was a foot trail at one time, or it could just be animal trails, and they make their way around that loop. The temperature, and I don't treat it easily to centigrade, which is what probably most of your listeners understand. The last time we had a big temperature change, they started a lap at 80 degrees, which is probably what, mid-20s?
Celsius,
Mary Mike can relate the two. And it dropped 65 degrees by the end of the loop they were on. So it was a warm, sunny day when they went out, and it poured rain most of the time in between then. And when they were on their return loop, crossing the tops of the mountains, the snow was about halfway up their shins.
Oh my God. This is insane.
So you have to carry a limited amount of stuff and be able to survive weather extremes, find your own way. It's a 60-hour race. If you get an hour of, if they want to get an hour of sleep, they have to run faster. But the gradients are extremely steep. I know there's 60-something thousand feet of a climb and the same amount of a descent, which is like twice the height of Mount Everest from sea level. Not just the easy.
It seems so crazy.
But almost no one reaches the finish line. No, it's right, Gary. Some years no one finishes. No one reaches the finish line, right?
It's there's been 20 finishers in almost 40 years. So
and wasn't there a Canadian guy who missed the cutoff with 6 seconds only?
Oh no.
That's one of those stories that takes on a life of its own. He actually, it's more tragic than that. He got lost 2 miles from the finish, and he just made a mistake. The amount of mistakes you can afford to make in the Barkley is 0, and he made 1. And he ended up wandering down through the woods and swimming across a flooded river in the winter, and coming out and walking into camp from the wrong direction. We're all watching up the trail to see him come, and he had wandered completely past the camp and came back from the other side. And so he didn't finish because he didn't cover the course. But someone asked me, they said, well, if he ran to the finish line anyway from the backside. And someone asked me, they said, well, if he hadn't gotten lost, would he have finished? And out of habit, when someone comes to the finish line, because the race personnel are also pretty wiped out after 2.5 days, I had looked at my watch and saw that he missed this time limit by 6 seconds. And I said, no, he would have still been 6 seconds late. And someone heard that, it took on a life of its own. And I got hate mail for months from people saying,
You did?
"Oh, you should count anyway."
From who? From who?
I know at least among us here that the half miler and Rune and Mary would say the same thing. He missed by 6 seconds. He didn't finish, right?
You would never get, Mary, would you write a hate mail to Gary?
No.
No. That's part of the show.
So
yeah.
It's still
I
an
actually
interesting
directed
story.
a race
Yeah.
that my son ran in, and he missed the cutoff by 7 seconds. I disqualified him.
But maybe he's more famous now because he missed it.
Yeah.
They said, it's your own son. He would have been mad if I had not have disqualified him.
Yeah, I totally agree. And earlier this year, the first woman finished the Barkley Marathons, Jasmine. Did I pronounce it right? Jasmine Paris?
I believe that is the correct pronunciation. That's what I've been calling her.
Okay, so did you secretly know this was possible? Or did you break your system?
The men's times of the 20 people who have finished are, across all of the running sports, the difference between men and women is like 10 or 11%. The records, and out of the 20 finishers that have finished the Barkley, if you add 10% to their time, it's over 60 hours. There's only been one time run by a man that, if you add that 11%, would have actually counted as a finish. So it takes an outlier among the men to finish. So for a woman to finish, it was going to take an outlier among outliers. and I think it's understating what she accomplished to say that it was a woman. A woman finished. It took a person with all the different skill sets it takes to handle that kind of an effort in a wilderness place by yourself. And she had to also have the mathematical mind, the running mind, to be able to calculate. And again, I know Rune and Mary will relate to this, that at the different times that a multi-day run is not just linear. That say in the Barkley, in the first lap, you're going to be ahead of what you have to average. But when you look out and you say, well, you got to go without sleep, you've got to run loops at night, which in the mountains with no trails, nighttime is slower, and you've got this and that. So she was able to calculate exactly where she was in relation to the race, even though it's not on a line. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone. And she figured out that what she had to do to finish is she had to start too fast. And whether it's the 800 or the 6-day, going out too fast has an inherent price that you pay. So she was in the lead for the first 40 miles. When she came in after the second loop, she was with John Kelly in the front. And she had the effect you expect if you go out and run the first 200 meters of a 800 too fast. You know what the rest of the 800 is going to be like.
Yeah, I know.
It's not fun. And she fought against the big curse of ultra runners who have gone too hard, which is her stomach was rebelling. And so she fought that off for the next 2 laps. It was touch and go. When she went out on the last lap, she knew she had she lost her stomach contents during her brief break between laps, and she had to force something down and keep it so that she had a chance to finish. And she went out. She got something down at the last minute and went into that lap. She got to the final stretch, like maybe the last 3 hours of the race. Everyone counted her out mathematically. In order to finish under the limit, she had to run 30 minutes faster than the guy who won. And
that seems hard.
Impossible.
Impossible, yeah.
She's going up and down these just almost vertical mountains. She had to run the entire way. I talked to her later. She said that, you know, she wanted to stop so bad, but she knew if she walked even once, she wouldn't finish. She made it by 90 seconds, less than 1 second a mile. So the math involved, the flawless race, the physical price that she was willing to pay. It will always be one of the great athletic performances that I've seen. And I've seen a lot of really good runners. And Rune.
I'm stunned.
Yeah, but it must be good for your race that a woman can do that, because it's that impossible thing.
Like Bob Beamon when he jumped the long jump.
Yeah.
And then others started to jump as long
they
as
had jumped to 850 or 830, and then it was not a good result. So you can do much better. So I think it's coming up more women.
Female invasion.
Yeah, but this is not the last woman.
But she's the outlier of outliers.
Yeah.
You have to remember that. Drink Dr. Pepper.
I think it's going to be a long time. I know I saw the thing. People said, oh, now there will be a string of women finishers. It's like the 4-minute mile. Someone finally did it, and now there will be a bunch. The problem is there's a shortage of women who want to run the Barkley.
I wonder why.
Does not.
Would you have liked the Barkley medal?
Yeah. I'm not sitting here and
possible
thinking
that women are
next
just
year.
smarter than men.
Yeah, women are smarter than men. That's the explanation.
Yeah.
That's why. Okay. Rune, did you run the Barkley? No?
No, I did not. And I don't know if I regret it. I think I regret it. But I think Mary could possibly have at least achieved the fun run in the Barkley, which is 3 laps, 60 miles. But I have I just came off helping organizing a fantastic endurance event, para endurance race. The Swedish Para Ranger Regiment, old veteran and the veteran support organization, 70 kilometers through the woods with at least a 20-kilo backpack. And some years ago, there were 2 guys. They ran that in 10 hours, 36 minutes with a 20-kilo backpack. And that was included a 1-hour compulsory stop. And one of them, Magnus Albinsson, he was 6th in the national championship in night orienteering. He could possibly have finished Barkley if I know anyone in my great register of fantastic athletes. But I'm an old orienteer, so maps and compass, and I train a lot in the woods and off trail. So, but no.
Why, Rune? Why didn't you try to start in Barkley?
Because there was, I don't know. Actually, it is a part of it. It's partly a regret that I did not try it. I don't know. I peaked as an ultra runner in 1987. And Gary, when was the first Barkley?
And the Barkley started in 1985, so it was, and in 1987 there still had not been anyone finish.
You could have been the first one, Rune.
Rune, you had been the first one. Oh,
I used to beat Mark. Was it Mark Williams who was the first to finish?
Yes, Mark Williams in 1995 was the first one.
I used to beat Mark
10 years
Williams
later.
in the Spartathlon. This English mathematician living in California. That was the Mark Williams we're talking about, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. I used to beat him in the Spartathlon. And no, I give it to Mark Williams. I will not take that honor away from him. We were all amazed when he did it. So
it's
fantastic.
We were amazed when we were there. Just when he finished, he was also the first one to finish 4 loops.
Oh.
And it really did not look like he was going to be able to go on, because he laid in his sleeping bag in camp for what seemed like too long of a time. But then he finished with about 15 minutes to spare. Most of the finishes are in that last 30 minutes.
If I would have aimed for Barkley, I have an idea how I would train, because I would train like I did for the Great Wall Run of China that never materialized, unfortunately, in 1991, when I ran almost all my training off trail. And I did quite a few hours per week of training, walking up a very steep hill and running down. That's a training I would have done. But no. You said one time that there are so many runners who think they could have finished Barkley. They think they could have.
Lass,
I will not be one of them.
Lass, I have a question. Have you had any really bad experience by people had injured themselves or get sick or even died at the race? It seems like a dangerous thing to get out there by yourself
without insurance.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been running half marathons, and there people die sometimes on that easy races if you compare to this. So, have you had any really bad things happen during the years?
I think that in the Barkley there have been more than a few runners who have wished for death.
That was a good answer. Yeah.
An honorable exit.
There is a mentality at the bar among the people that do that race that they finish the loop on their own. We've never had to go and retrieve someone from the woods. We have a Swiss runner, Milan Milanovic. Rune might remember him. He's from pretty almost back to our time. And he broke his ankle with 16 miles to go on a loop and hopped the last 16 miles on one leg to finish a fun run.
Oh. Okay, it seems like it's really tough people out there. It's
outliers.
Normal ones.
Outliers.
But you have had
there's a number of them like that. Okay. Flying Brian Robinson fell. He cliffed out. He got where the slope got too steep, and he started to go down the side of the mountain and grabbed a small tree to catch himself and dislocated his clavicle from his breastbone.
Ouch.
So he got something out of his pack and strapped an arm to himself and finished the rest of that loop to finish the 100.
These are not normal persons. I understand that. Okay, so
really something else. And you have to tell us about how do you start this race? I have heard that people are sitting next to you, Gary, and when you light your cigarette, they have how long do they have to wait before start? Is it like 1 hour after you have lightened your cigarette, or
one of the things that makes the Barkley difficult is that I have found over the years the thing that's most challenging for an athlete is uncertainty. So they don't know the exact course until the day before when we give them the map, and they have to transcribe that map onto their map. They don't, the time is between midnight and noon on the day of the race, and we simply blow a conch shell with 1 hour to go. So for preparing to run this loop in the mountains, you don't know whether you'll be starting in the dark, starting in the daylight, how the different parts of the course are going to fall, and what gear you need to carry, or hell, how to arrange your sleep so that you get as rested as you can be before the start. For some reason, a lot of people lay awake at night waiting on the conch shell. They have 1 hour till the start to get the right gear packed and get themselves ready. And we start the race like, I think this is how the most of the great races of the past, I think they do this at the Olympics, don't they? They start the race by lighting a cigarette.
I haven't seen that so often.
You started the watch when you saw the smoke.
Yeah, it has been wonderful to see that.
Yeah, something new, something fresh. Yeah.
Can you tell us something about, you have all the people coming there and run, they bring you something, like a gift from every country?
It's been different things over the years. My shirt I'm wearing is a Barkley shirt. I started out just getting white button-up shirts because I wear them to work when they're new. And then when they got older, I would wear them to run in. And, when they start to get stained or you've lost a button. Then when they start to get a little worn and frayed, I use them as a work shirt. And by the end, you throw away the little strip with the buttons and the collar. But mostly it was so that then I had them buy socks. I got on Barkley socks and different items that saves me from having to leave the farm and go into town to buy clothes. We started at one point when people come for the first time, they bring a license plate from their home state or their country. And it seemed like a really good idea because you hung up all the license plates from the different countries and the different parts of the US, and it looked really cool. And it was an unfortunate case of not projecting ahead to how this ends up, because now there's 400 or 500 license plates that have to be unpacked and hung up around camp.
How many Swedish license plates do you have?
I know we have some, but I don't know how many.
You have had some Swedes during the last years, I think.
We have had Swedes. Johan Stana. Am I close to pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Johan Stana. And he's had a couple of good runs at it.
But how long come the Swedes? How many laps?
More than the fun run.
Yeah.
He's got a fun. He's I think probably the year that he ran the best, he was brought down by kindness. He ran into another runner in the night, who had just brought one flashlight, and the flashlight had died. So Johan gave that runner his spare flashlight. And then a little bit later on, because the Barkley, for whatever reason, it eats your equipment, it eats trekking poles, it eats flashlights. So Johan's flashlight went out, failed, got broken. So he went as far as he could go in the dark and ended up, of course, it's below freezing and pouring rain, and he can't see, and he's back out in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. So he ended up crawling in a hole in the rocks and waiting till the next morning. And he was only about 2 miles, which is what, three kilometers from camp. It's just, unfortunately, if it's cloudy and pouring rain, you can't see very well without a light.
Okay. Kindness. That's too bad. That doesn't. It's good to be kind.
The Swedes.
Yeah, Swedes are
too kind.
Yeah.
To be
It sounds typical for him, because I know my friend Mia. They are friends.
Oh.
So it sounds like very typical for Johan to do a thing like this.
Yeah.
So okay, that's a good reason. Not to reach
he's
the light.
Really nice guy. I would not have shared my flashlight.
You have run past only.
Yeah.
Back.
It seems like a bad idea, actually, to risk your own race, but it's hard decision.
Do you want to design a race that no one can win ever?
No, that's the Barkley. Each race is designed to challenge a different aspect of the athlete, and in the Barkley, it is designed, and it takes a lot of work to try to keep it there, where that you have about 1% of the people finish. So that when you select the field, all the people in the field are really good runners. So and I would say they're in the top 1% of runners, and you want about 1% of them to finish.
So how many people
you like
at
to
the
average
starting
out
line?
to a finisher about every 2.5 years.
So
and we've had
year...
about one every 2 years. So we're behind the curve a little bit now. We'll have to tighten things up.
Okay.
But Laz, how many are there at the starting line in a race each year?
40.
Okay.
40 is the maximum number of people we can fit in the campground where that we stage the race. And so then you select the field, you select not just the top elite athletes, but all accomplished athletes, but not necessarily all of them that have a chance to finish the race, because we would study it's in a wilderness area. So when we did the course in the early days, then we would look to see at what level of use that it would take before we had an impact on the natural area where it's held. And we've figured out the number of laps between 180 and 190 total laps that you can run, and no one, and a year from now, it doesn't look like someone's been there. So we pick among the 40 people to where that we should get that number of laps, and we have pretty good luck on that. We come out between 180 and 190 laps total that were done every year. I think that's the number, and it may be it's between 80 and 90.
But do you have a person in your stab who's running the race, running the course before, and see if it's possible to get through it in a special time or in a decent time?
Yeah, everywhere the course goes, we've been. In the old days, once upon a time, I put out me and Raw Dog, my high school running buddy, we would put out all the books ourselves in a weekend. We put out the high books one day and the low books the next, not following the whole course, but taking different routes through the park and the surrounding mountains. And we've been up and down those mountains in every possible way so that you have a mental map of all the different trail possibilities to string it all together. And then you calculate in your mind all the different things that people are doing, the time of day they're doing them, and do the math to add it back to put it just right at that edge where maybe it could be done.
Maybe.
Can you tell a little bit more about the books, about the pages you have to pick in every during the loop to prove that you have been everywhere?
We found out because that I've been traveling in the mountains with maps since I was 12. And you kind of assume everybody knows their way around the woods, but you find out a lot of people, they can run very, very good, but they can't find their way in the woods. And so we came up with a checkpoint system because you don't want humans out there to give comfort and make people feel good. So we take paperback books and you get a bib every lap. So you you go to the back book at the checkpoint, pull out the page that matches your bib number. And at the end of the lap, you have to have all those pages from the different checkpoints. And that's really where the map reading ability, the ability to use a map comes in, because we're careful to put on the topographical map the precise with a dot. And if you can use that map and go to, say, a space the size of the room you're in, then you have a secondary thing, which is the instructions, is this tells you exactly where the book is. It's under this rock. It's inside this hollow tree. You can't put them out because there's wild boar there, and wild boar know one thing: plastic bags contain food.
Ouch. Yeah.
And so if there is something in you have to put the book in a bag so it doesn't get soaking wet. And if the wild boars can get at the bags, they will shred them, because they understand one thing: inside plastic bags are food. So if you're good enough with the map to get to a tiny area, it's really easy to find the book. They're not hidden. We tell them exactly where they are, but they're also not in the open. If you're not quite that good with a map, and maybe you can get within an area the size of your house, it becomes more problematic to find the specific rock or tree that you're looking for. And then if you're really not that good with a map at all, and you can only get within the area of a football pitch, you're going to be searching for the book for a long time.
I gave you a book when we met in 2019. It was a copy of my book, Löparglädje, where I actually mentioned you on the page. Has my book ever been a checkpoint book?
Well, no, that was only one copy. With the books, people do give us books. They find books with appropriate titles, and then we will take each year, and when you're putting it all together, you think there's a theme for this year's Barkley. One year the theme was where the Barkley Marathons, where dreams go to die. 6 days out here or 3 days out here, and you can give your therapist advice. The only thing that buckles here is your knees. And then you string the book titles together so that they fit with the theme. And then you think about the place on the course where the runners will come to them and what time of day it'll be, because we set the starting time before you leave one year. You know the starting time for the next year. The runners don't know, but we know. Okay. And so now runners pick up on it. They see the titles are funny. There was the last book one year it wasn't always easy, but it sure was fun and just different things. But some of them that are more thoughtful, and they're reading those book titles and they say, he's just fucking with us. You go through the long night and you're coming up towards, you're just praying. If you've done all night runs, especially when you're out, that sunrise is so welcome. And you think the day will never come. When the day comes, it'll be a new day. I'll be renewed, even though I didn't sleep. And then you pick up the book and it's praying for sunrise.
But if you compare,
because you've been there.
If you compare ultra runners back in the 80s with the ultra runners today, are they similar, or do you see any differences?
There's a lot of differences in ultra running as a sport between now and then. People don't change. Sometimes the way they are manifests itself differently. When we held in the late 70s and early 80s, when we had the Strolling Jim Ultra Marathon, which is it was the first one I put on. It's in May. By Christmas, you had all your entries. And those people that were entered at Christmas, if they didn't show up in May, you were kind of concerned, because you could only go to a handful of races a year. There were so few and they were so far apart. But you planned for that race. If you didn't go to the race, well, you wouldn't meet anybody else who understood what you did for the next 6 months. Now you have lots of ability to communicate and lots of races. So people enter and drop out on a never-ending rate. That's become one of the time-consuming things about directing races, is that so many people drop out. And I think the number one reason that they drop out is they're afraid they won't do well. They're not trained. They're afraid that I think all of us who have run, you know how the feelings that you go through before a big race, whether it's a half mile or 1,000 miles. And they just, I'll do it next year. I'll wait and do this race next time. And you see people drop out of races when you hit that point, the decision point, when it really comes down to it, when you go, it's the third lap of the mile. And then their mind will tell them, well, you have an important race next week. You better not hurt yourself this week. And they'll drop out and say, well, I have an important race coming up. As an athlete, you should never trade today for tomorrow, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. You may not have any race at all next week, or maybe ever again.
Well, Mary, I don't know if did you participate in the first 6 day that Mary ran in, was it Hoboken, that Marvin Skagerberg?
I did not. I did not run. I did not get into the 6 days, and I was several years into the 1980s before I attempted one.
Because Mary, then you had only 1 week of vacation that year. Mary had 1 week of vacation, working full time plus extra as a swimming instructor, had 1 week of vacation. How do you spend your week of vacation in 1984? A 6 day.
Well, we always said that the reason for doing that was it was like getting extra vacation. Because other people, they take, you know, the next person down, they take vacation, they go to the beach, and then they come back, they say, God, it's like I hardly got there and I had to go home. You spend your vacation running in circles on a track all day and all night. It seems like it will never end.
Yeah.
You can barely remember when you worked.
Yeah. One thing that Mary and I have observed about the difference between ultra running in the 1980s and ultra running today is that in the 80s, there was not really any knowledge about how to run these races. We had to invent that knowledge by trial and error and pass it on to the next runners and the next runners. And today, it's like, wow, didn't I know that? It's like the knowledge is there, but it seems like it's always been there, but it wasn't. Many things like salt and such things.
It was so we bushwhacked it. We had to learn how to train. We had to learn how to manage the races and how to take care of your feet. And it was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
It was fun being a pioneer, Gary
involved.
and Mary.
It was.
Mary
Take
was
care
the
of your
female
feet.
ultra pioneer.
I heard some stories about feet.
Yeah.
Ouch. If you don't take care of your
But
feet, then
you remember the lessons.
Yes.
You
my
remember
friend,
the lessons when you learned by error.
Yeah, my friend's skin under her foot, it like detached. So
melted.
No, it's she thought I have something under my foot. So she removed her shoe, and it was the skin from under the foot that had like lost contact with the foot. And it was like rolled.
Oh my!
Like, so yeah, I heard stories like that. So
then you can't.
What do you think, Malin? Are you tempted to?
I'm not. I think I'm rather run 10 times 800 meters again in a hard pace than and had a few more kids.
I can have more kids.
But this sounds too hard. I think I thought I had I was tough.
You thought you were tough.
Yeah. I thought I was a tough runner before I heard this. Then I understand I'm a very soft, weak runner. So this is out of my league.
Something else.
Malin, did you compete in the World Championship and Olympics and so?
Yes, absolutely. Both. Yeah.
Well, then you cannot have been a weak runner, because to withstand that mental pressure is
but that's a walk in the park. You go. I was in Atlanta '96. It was beautiful. Come in there in a stadium with 90,000 of public of people and they sharing and it was lovely weather and so on. It's not so hard to run 2 or 4 minutes on a track. Then it sounds very, very, very weak if you compare to this. But it's a different things. But it's for me it was very learning actually, because I had no idea how tough this was. I understand it was tough, but this was 10 times worse than I thought.
But we have to mention your walk across the US before we sum up this interview, because we only have a few minutes left. So maybe we should say something about your walk, Laz. I heard you don't smoke uphill.
Yes, that's my advice to young runners: is never smoke while you're going uphill.
So you know, Malin.
Okay, that's a good tip. Yeah.
So, but I understand that the doctors weren't too impressed when you said that you were going to walk across the US again, and you did it anyway.
It's, the doctor was probably my best coach, because I had my annual physical. I only go to the doctor once a year, and I because I was getting a little older, I said, you know, do I get a pass or the approval that I'm okay to walk across the country? And he said he didn't need to give me the doctor's approval or not, because physically I couldn't do it. I have like most people that get to be in their 70s, I have a few issues. And I told him, and it didn't make any sense to me. I said, I know I can walk 30 miles in a day, because I do that. And all I have to do is walk 30 miles in a day 120 times.
Where did you start and where did you end? But was this your second walk across the America?
I went from Newport, Rhode Island to Newport, Oregon. I was going to follow basically the US 20 route across the country, because that's the longest highway across the US. I didn't realize how stupid that was until I got to the last few hundred miles and realized any other route I would be finished. But then I saw that it ended in Newport, California, and starts in Boston or Oregon. And I thought, wait a minute, how far is Newport, Rhode Island from Boston? That's only 93 miles. So I started in Newport, Rhode Island, and walked east and north to Boston, and then went west. And it really didn't seem like a big deal until I got 93 miles from the Pacific and realized, just because, so I could say I walked from Newport to Newport instead of Boston to Newport, I caused myself to have an extra 3 days of walking on the road.
But did you follow roads with lots of traffic? Or did you, what I did when I ran across America, first of all, I ran from the Pacific to the Atlantic, because then I get predominantly tailwind. You got headwinds most of the time, right? And I tried to stay on little farm roads.
At this point, I have sufficient ballast that I can walk into the end, and it's not a big problem. I'm not going to blow away. I walked you can't walk the highways or run the highways like you used to, because there's so much more traffic and it's so much faster. So I walked out west. I walked on interstates. I walked back roads, city streets. I cut across fields from one road to another. I walked open range. All I cared about was having a continuous set of footprints from one ocean to the other, and whatever was the best way I could go. I did turn back one day when I had taken a shortcut in Idaho and came to a place, and I could, between two highways, instead of going way out and coming back. But when I got to where I could see the highway I was going to, there was a shooting range between me and it. And I had to cross between where all the guns were and where the targets were. And after due consideration, I decided not to trust that they would stop shooting while I went across and went back the way I came.
Okay, so we have learned to don't smoke
Idaho.
uphill.
Yeah.
Don't smoke uphill, Malin.
Yeah.
Okay. That's our motto.
Yeah.
So if you want to sign up for Barkley, is it possible, or how do you do it? If you are listening to this and maybe you think, oh, I can do that. Or at least I can try.
My next goal.
Is it possible? How do you do it?
You just have to follow the entry process and be sure that you're on time, because from the time the entry opens till it closes is till that everyone writes an essay, so you can determine who should get in. And so when it opens up, when there's all the essays you can read, then the entry closes.
The most important to be in really good shape.
Yeah, and have maybe 3 torches with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so unfortunately we have to finish this interview, but last, I hope you know that you are our dream guest, and we are honored to have you, our dream guest, in our second recording of this podcast. So thank you so much. I'm really honored. This was so.
Oh, I appreciate y'all
so
asking me. It's good to talk and see people, and I stand in awe to be with someone who has been to the Olympics as an athlete. That's a world-class 800-meter runner.
Thank you.
If you've run middle distance, you have a real appreciation, and I will tell you, I was more of a miler. I thought the 880 was the more fun race, but I wasn't fast enough. But you pack a whole Barkley's pain into just one lap in the mile.
Yeah.
And then you level in the half mile.
Yeah.
I'm willing to shorter period. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much again, Gary.
Yeah.
Thank you for participating, and all the best to you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
But to still have contact with you, Gary, after all these years, the pioneer of ultra running.
Really,
we are not as quick as we used to be.
I have 100K coming up this Saturday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's strong, Rune.
Stay strong.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And don't smoke on the uphills.
No.
Okay.
Take care, Les.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you have to tell me, am I supposed to disconnect now?
Yes, you can. Please, you can disconnect now. But
okay, sometimes they have a little bit and they stop and talk after the recording has ended, but I never know what's going on. No, it still says it's recording.
Okay, but I think the other ones that are in this meeting, you can stay and we will do some summing up, and you can disconnect. Yeah, we're going to speak Swedish.
My next thing is to go out and do my miles, because
great.
I'm not a day off kind of guy.
That sounds relieving.
Oh, it says leave. Goodbye.
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 Say hi to Sandra.
All the best. Okej, så då kan vi prata svenska igen.
Ja.
Ja, det var... Ja.
Ja, det gick ju bra.
Ja, jag tänkte att vi kan göra lite det som vi skulle ha gjort egentligen kvart i, som vi kan göra nu på några minuter innan vi måste ju sluta vid kvart över, men om vi hinner bara Ja, ja, ja. Men ska vi inte bara säga också så här, eller i och för sig, när det här avsnittet släpps, då har ju du redan sprungit Lejonbragden, så vi kanske, ja, det om vi skulle bara säga någonting, hur läget är, och sen så kommer vi in på det här. Ska vi göra det?
Vi gör det.
Ska vi göra det, så det känns lite mer... Ja, men det kanske Rune eller Erik kan berätta, för att jag är verkligen inte rätt person att förklara vad Barkley är.
Vad Barkley är?
Ja, men vi bara kör igång. Vi dyker in rakt i samtalet. Ja, Rune, du har ju Lejonbragden som kommer här, har jag förstått. På lördag, va? Ja, hur känns formen?
Fysiskt är jag i jättebra form för min ålder. Jag sprang 45 kilometer igår utan att bli trött. Men damoklessvärdet som hänger över mig och kan falla ner och klyva mig när som helst är mitt högra knä.
Just ja, det var det.
Som jag har artros i. Och det högg mot slutet. Riktigt eländigt högg det. Och ja, så att där har vi problemet. Men jag har gjort 2 5-milare de senaste 2-3 veckorna och 45 kilometer igår utan att känna någon trötthet. Så att det är alltid bra tecken.
Okej, det ska bli spännande att höra mer om Lejonbragden då i kommande avsnitt.
Ja.
Verkligen. Vi ska ju snart faktiskt koppla upp oss mot en av drömgästerna. Det var väl du, Erik, som hade den här personen som din drömgäst i den här podden?
Ja, men det stämmer bra.
Nej, det var Erik faktiskt. Rune hade ju Frank Shorter. Ja, nu pratar jag med Erland i studion, eller i kontrollrummet, så nu vet jag inte hur vi ska klippa det här. Men i alla fall, så det var faktiskt Erik. Det var du som hade Läs som din drömgäst. Berätta.
Det stämmer.
Vem är han?
Ja, men Läs är ju en kultfigur inom ultralöpningen. Som vi hade turen att få hit till Sverige. När jag jobbade med skor tidigare så sponsrade vi ett lopp som heter Backyard Ultra Älvdalen. Och Marcus och Petra som höll i det här loppet, de lyckades få hit Läs till Sverige. Så han kom till Älvdalen, och kvällen innan så hade vi någon middag för alla deltagare. Läs gick upp och pratade, och efter Läs skulle jag gå upp och prata om skor. Då kände man sig liten.
Oj, ja, det är lite, kan jag tänka mig att det är lite stora skor och fylla. Om man säger. Det var lite roligt.
Men sen dagen efter var fantastisk, för att då hade vi Rune och Mary på plats också. Och då visste jag att Rune och Mary känner igen Läs sen långt tillbaka. Nästan innan jag var född, eller på att säga. Inte så tidigt, men sen långt tillbaka. Så det var ju fantastiskt. Rune och jag sprang i loppet. Läs, han övervakade loppet. Och jag tror Mary, du var ute och gick. Tog en massa, jag vet inte hur många mil hon gick. Ganska långt i alla fall.
Ja, hon gick många mil, men då hade hon ju hon hade ju ännu inte fått ett nytt knä. Så att där hade damoklessvärdet fallit.
Men är han ultralöpare själv i grunden?
Läs jag.
Ja, det är han.
Ja, herregud.
Ja.
Första gången jag träffade honom, det var i ett 48-timmarslopp i Columbia, South Carolina, i 1986. Och då springer man ju på en 400-metersbana, gjorde vi. Och man tar ju energi av varandra i en katalytisk process, va? Man hjälper varandra att hålla uppe modet och så. Och han pratar. Och jag var mycket imponerad av Gary Cantrell, som jag kände honom som då och nu också. Att han kunde så mycket om Nordens och Sveriges historia. Han var så otroligt allmänbildad. Jag tänkte, den här killen är skärpt. Men jag såg honom aldrig röka. Men det kanske berodde på att det inte fanns några backar.
Ja, just det. Jag hittade ju en artikel där som handlar om hans vandring över USA som han gjorde tidigare i år. Och då var ju en rubrik då i The Guardian var ju I don't smoke on the uphills.
Perfekt.
Och det är väl lite det hans signum, va? Ni som känner till honom bättre. Dr. Pepper och cigg. Det är...
Jag såg aldrig honom röka här i Sverige, men däremot så köpte vi ofantliga mängder Dr. Pepper till honom.
Ja, men mytomspunnen man. Och han lyckas ju då, de här loppen han skapar, de har ju en dimension av liksom mystik och lite oförutsägbarhet, har jag förstått.
Ja, det stämmer. Barkley Marathons tror jag var det första han kom upp med. Och det är ju ett lopp där man springer i bergen i Tennessee. Och man ska ta sig någonstans runt 100 miles. Det kan vara mer också. Det är väl ingen som har mätt riktigt. Och man ska göra det inom 60 timmar fördelat på 5 varv då. Och sen har man ju checkpoints efter vägen. Och då ska man samla böcker, eller sidor av böcker. Okay. Som oftast har ett tema varje år. Så att det är inte många som klarar. Jag tror att det tog några år innan första finishen. Den som gjorde man måste göra alla 5 varven på 60 timmar.
Jag tror loppet startade 1985. Och Mark Williams, den första som gjorde det 1995. Och det stora mysteriet är varför startar... Jag vet ju hur det snackades. Det går aldrig att... Man kan inte fullfölja det racet. Det går inte att komma i mål. Ändå stod folk i kö för att få vara med.
Ja, det är intressant.
Ja, det är väldigt intressant.
Det är lite fascinerande för att alltså jag vill gärna ha en medalj, tänker jag. Alltså i min motionärsvärld vill jag ha en medalj, men här ställer man upp i ett lopp där man troligtvis inte kommer att lyckas. Eller anser man att man har lyckats ändå? Ni som vet mer.
Att man bara får vara med och att man har gjort ett försök måste vara en bragd i sig.
Precis, är det så de tänker då, majoriteten då som aldrig kommer i mål?
Jag tror att många har i alla fall som första mål att göra ett så kallat fun run. Och då gör man ju 3 första loopen. Det är ett fun run.
Det är bra. Nej, för jag menar, det där strider ju mot all annan känsla när man liksom ska genomföra någonting. Att då är det ju liksom ett stort misslyckande att inte komma till mål. Exakt. Det är ju liksom...
DNF.
Men det är liksom det är en trist känsla för allt och alla. Men det här verkar ju liksom inte... var så stora chanser att komma runt det helt enkelt.
Nej, det är inte vem som helst som får plats heller, tror jag. Det är väl
väldigt få platser vad jag förstod.
Ja, jag tror att det är väldigt mycket ansökningar inom en kort period. Man ska skicka ett brev dit på något vis och sen plockar han därifrån sådana han tror har möjlighet att fullfölja, och gärna några tjejer också. Och där vet vi ju nu att en tjej har klarat det.
Här kommer ju Gary Cantrells filosofi in. Han skulle ju kunna bli förmögen på det här loppet och ta till en väldigt, väldigt kraftfull startavgift. Men i sina lopp så har han en väldigt, väldigt låg startavgift. För att han vill att allmogelöparna ska komma. Annars får vi de här förmögna ingenjörerna från Silicon Valley och någon slags CEO för något företag som har råd att betala hutlöst mycket för att vara med. Nu kommer att det kostar nästan ingenting att vara med i hans lopp.
För då Rune, det låter ju också så här som att för att ens ha en möjlighet att komma runt ett endaste varv på det där loppet så kan du inte liksom betala med plånboken, utan du måste ju vara en extrem människa, inte bara att du har lust att vara med och i fysisk hyfsad form, utan verkar ju vara ytterst få som ens är kapabla att komma runt fun run så att säga. Så att det låter ju ändå som att det ger sig av sig självt lite grann, det där med att inte man kan köpa sig till den kapaciteten.
Bra filosofi tycker jag ändå. Nu verkar det som att han är på G här, så vi kanske ska koppla upp oss.
Ja, spännande.
Mot Gary. Vår drömgäst. It's a wrap.
Perfekt.
Ja, ska vi säga något? Behöver vi det? Ja. Okej, det är
väldigt kort. Ja.
Mycket kort. Alla säger en grej då.
Ja.
Okej, pang. Nu lägger Gary på. Nu har han äntligen hittat knappen där han ska trycka bort den. Ja. Ja, vad säger ni? Hur kändes det där?
Jag är helt utpumpad. Jag har suttit på en stol i en timme här och känns som man har blivit helt manglad. Och Ja, som jag var inne på, jag inser att springa 800 meter på en bana i solgasset, det framställs väldigt lindrigt.
Men samtidigt så creddade jag ju dig för att det är ju som en Barkley Marathon i miniatyr. Det är komprimerat.
Fast det här är ju nära döden upplevelse vad jag förstår. Så att,
Efficiency.
800 meter kan man dock springa ett par gånger eller en gång i veckan liksom, under ett par månader. Det tror jag inte man gör på ett sånt lopp.
Nej, jag tror att återhämtningstiden är ganska lång, va? Eller vad säger ni?
Ja, återhämtningstiden, den som slarvar med den gör rovdrift på sin framtid som ultralöpare, kan vi tala om.
Ja, det låter rimligt ändå. Man får helt enkelt acceptera att det kommer att vara några veckor utan mycket aktivitet. Erik, hur känns det? Din drömgäst?
Ja, men det är fantastiskt. Det är 3:e gången i mitt liv jag lyssnar på läs och jag tror att jag kanske har lagt 5 timmar att lyssna på honom och det blir aldrig tråkigt. Och det är alltid med glimten i ögat. Helt fantastisk man.
Jag älskar hans humor. Alltså, han skulle kunna vara tjeck. Ja. Alltså, för det är lite tjeckisk torrhumor. Alltså, jag älskar det. Jag älskar det verkligen.
Utseende, han hade skägg och hår.
Bara på honom. Ja. Jag gillar det. Alltså, han skulle kunna man skulle sätta honom på en tjeckisk pub.
Och som Rune sa, han är väldigt påläst. När vi hade honom här i Falun en dag på en föreläsning och sen var vi ute och käkade på kvällen. Där hade han läst på om våran stad, om historien.
Okay. Smart.
Han visste nästan mer än mig.
Ja. Jag kan tänka mig det.
Han var otroligt
smart
spännande. Vilken typ.
Ja, men coolt. Jag tog med mig massor från den här intervjun i alla fall. Vi springer väl vidare då mot nya drömgäster. Ja.
Yes.
Toppen.
Härligt.
Vilken blir våra nästa gäst?
Okej, vår nästa gäst som jag vet, det är ju Mikael Mattsson den 18 november. Om ni kan. Jag tror inte alla har svarat där.
Snacka om drömgäst för mig.
Ja, så där får du se, Rune, om du vill komma in. Och då tänker jag, vi eventuellt då skulle, nu vet jag Erik att du är i USA. Det skulle ju vara, om nu Rune kommer in person, om vi skulle kunna göra liksom ett avsnitt där vi, men som Sista måltiden gör ibland, att vi bara pratar alltså utan gäst, skulle man kunna göra också. Men vi har inga fler avsnitt bokade just i nuläget. Men jag vet, Erik, du har ju Kalle Halvarsson på gång.
Ja, jag tror att han håller på att bli frisk. Han har lite bakslag här.
Ja, jag såg någon rubrik där i Expressen om att han var sjuk också. Men i övrigt så pågår ju letandet och ni får jättegärna också komma med förslag, som sagt. Om ni har någon som ni vet. Folk älskar den här podden också, bara så att ni vet.
Jag har också fått mejla till mig, för jag har ju blivit sån här expert på Haglunds hälar, så att alla löpare som har problem med det mejlar till mig och vill höra. Ja.
Okay. Ja, men vänta nu.
För vi snackade lite om det, bara hur är läget och allt. Och så.
Just det.
Så att alla vet att jag är liksom stor expert.
Men det är faktiskt min sjukgymnast som är otroligt bra, som har hjälpt mig mycket med min höft. Jag har pratat lite med honom om att han ska komma in. Så vi kanske skulle kunna ha ett sånt avsnitt. Han får ju mycket löpare. Han springer ultra själv faktiskt. Så han är
ju en himla bra gäst, du.
Ja, så att Ola heter han. Så men jag håller er uppdaterade i våran Messenger-grupp helt enkelt.
Och jag återkommer när Kalle har lite förslag på datum.
Ja, alla, vad sa du? Ja, men jag tror folk gillar också det, så att vi sätter lite liksom konceptet. Ibland kan bara vi prata. Ja. Jag vill veta hur lejonbragden gick, Rune. Den måste vi prata om efter att du har... Så vi kanske skulle kunna...
Jag gör massor att snacka om.
Gud, titta på någonting snart här. Så, men lycka till.
Ja, kör hårt nu, Rune.
Lycka till.
Gå ut stenhårt och söka det.
Ja, som Jasmine.
Och jag tackar än en gång Erik för de fantastiska skor han fixade.
Ja, är det Craft?
Är det Hoka du ska köra nu?
Det var Hoka. Craft, de har en väldigt stum sula de vi fick.
Ja, jo tack.
Jag ser inte någon energy return i den sulan.
Nej. Får fortsätta produktutveckla lite.
Ja. Nej,
men de här och den här roll-offen, när jag provar att springa, ursäkta, skratta inte nu Malin, men jag provar att springa riktigt snabbt. Jag kom
Ja,
ner i 4 minuters tempo.
ja, men det
är
är
bra.
Det är
svinsnabbt.
otroligt
Ja,
snabbt.
så
Det är
själv när du är
jätteimponerande.
68 år.
Ja,
Jag kan
det
inte
ska jag
skratta
säga
högt.
Rune. Jag skrattar inte alls. Jag säger att det är många av mina kunder som är långt yngre än dig som har problem eller som inte kommer ner där.
Nej, men alltså vad är det för skor då? Nu är jag nyfiken. Vilken modell är det?
Vilken är det?
CLO X1, det hockas...
Cielo? Åh jäklar,
det
nu
är väl
Rune!
hockas svar på Alphafly.
Oj,
Ja,
Det är värre än
det-
Alphafly
det-
har jag förstått.
Vad är
Och
det?
den är ganska snäll i
Ja.
alla farter. Den
Jag
kan vara elak
bestämde
också.
för att jag bodde ute i sommarstugan med er. Jag bor i sommarstugan nu. Har gjort sedan i maj. Och det är grusväg 1,7 kilometer ut till asfalten. Men jag vill inte trampa in stenar och grus i sulan. Så att jag tog bilen ut 1,7 kilometer.
Ja, det är
Eller
bra,
ja,
jag
2
älskar det.
kilometer. Och sen sprang jag en mil asfalt idag.
Ultralöpare
Det
som
är
tar
bra.
bilen
Jag
ner till
älskar
start.
det.
Fy
Det är lite
fasen,
lass
vad
över det,
bra.
va?
Det är riktigt
Ja,
bra. Alltså.
ja.
Den är...
Ta en Dr. Pepper och sen så snörar man på sig sina
Ja.
Cielo.
Och just där,
Ja.
nej, här är det för dåligt underlag.
Då är skorna en altartavla. Men det första, jag försökte springa med dem och herregud, hur ska detta gå? Det var någon som sa att man kände sig lite sjösjuk. Och,
Men det är väl bra va? För
Ja,
det
ja.
betyder att de är bra att springa i.
Ja, ja.
Jo, men i början kändes det, men det tog inte många 100 meter förrän jag kände, wow, det här är perfekt.
Ja.
Och sen provade jag olika tempon. Jag provade att springa då ner mot 4 minuter på kilometern, någon kilometer. Och prova någon 7,5 minuter på kilometern som jag tror kommer att bli väldigt mycket mitt tempo i lejonbragden. Och båda temporna kändes jättebra med skorna.
Det är lite...
Ja, det är
brukar
faktiskt,
inte vara
det är
med-
faktiskt
Ja,
nej, för ofta så är det ju så här att jag tycker ofta såna här snabblöparskor då, de är inte så himla sköna att springa långsamt,
Nej.
utan man känner nästan att jag måste komma upp i 4,30 tempo innan de börjar liksom svara.
Jag tycker i alla fall 5 någonting.
Ja,
någonting.
Men i
det
alla
är
fall,
olika
och så när
skor,
man
ja.
går ner på för lågt tempo så är det bättre med några andra, känner jag. Men det här är ju fantastiskt.
ja.
Vilken spännvidd.
Vilken, ja, men,
Ja.
nyfiken. Ja, men vi får snacka mer om lejonbragden sen som sagt. Jag tror det är många som vill höra.
Ja.
Och vad ni andra
Kul.
sysslar med också.
Vi följer dig på lördag, Rune.
Ja. Spännande. Kör så ryker.
Där kan vi
Ja,
sätta
du
punkt
vet.
va?
Ja.
Det här blir skitbra. Ja, bra
Ja.
tugg. Det här gillar jag. Det här var bra. Det är sånt här folk vill höra.
Ja.
Jag älskar det här. Grymt. Men vi hörs vidare på Messenger. Så får ni, tack så jättemycket för en grym insats idag.
Tack
Tack
själv.
själva.
Ja, hej då.